Would you agree, Mr. Outram, Ms. Holborn, that it's a difficult issue, it's a challenging issue? You've got safety considerations, you've got legal considerations, all the things you mentioned a minute ago, Mr. Outram. It's not easy.
Running borders is challenging, Senator.
Yes, it is, and it's a fundamental duty of the federal government to keep our borders secure. Try to make it clearer, make it easier for us, and safer for people. What are your greatest issues? What are the core issues that you need addressed by the government?
That's a very wide-ranging question, Senator. I could talk for a very long time. Our functions really fall into three areas, I suppose. One is the customs function that we undertake, which is, of course, about collection of duty, revenue, management of and administration of the Customs Act, and ensuring that prohibited goods don't get brought across our border.
I mean, in relation to keeping people safe in this country and keeping our border secure. What do you need on this issue that we've been talking at length for hours now?
Well, preventing prohibited goods from coming in across our border keeps our country safe, Senator. So I'd say, you know,
on this issue,
the management of cargo is a big area for us. You know, we have a lot of, as I said at my opening statement, 70% projected increase in cargo over the next 10 years.
With respect, I'm trying to help you on this issue, which is about safety of the citizens of this country, about dealing with hardened criminals, murderers, rapists, domestic violence offenders. I'd like to know what are your biggest cost components. You've talked about surveillance. You've talked about so many different measures that you've had to do. Unprecedented. Senator Ghosh was getting at a good point. But what do you need from us, or what do you need from the government to fix this?
Well, as I said earlier on, our budget's sitting at unprecedented levels. There's a lot of work going on behind the scenes in relation to our civil maritime capabilities, working very closely with Defence and looking at how we put those capabilities on a more sustainable footing going forwards into the future. That would be really important. I think you
said that you have to comply with the law. I'm pleased to hear you say that. You said that you've got to do it within the legal regime you've got. What legal regime would you prefer? What fine-tuning would you need?
That's really a policy question.
Minister, what do these people need? What do these people need to solve this problem? We talked about unprecedented cost levels, unprecedented risks. What do we need to solve the problem?
And sorry, what is the problem that you're talking about?
Safety of people, keeping these murderers and other criminals in the country at the moment. How do we get rid of them? How do we protect people's safety?
I guess what the government has been trying to do is to keep the Australian people safe, and that's why there's a range of cases that have had their visas cancelled with a view to deportation, and those people have been kept in detention during that time as a result of a High Court decision and other legal decisions. The government's attempt to keep these people in detention or deport them has been overturned, and what we've done is follow the law, comply with the law, which I would hope that you would agree is needed, but that we do it in a way that maximises the safety of the Australian people by putting into hang on, can I just finish? By putting into place an unprecedented system of protection with electronic monitoring, curfews. I mean, we just heard in response to those questions from Senator Ghosh that in the time Mr Dutton was the Home Affairs Minister, it would appear dozens of murderers, sex offenders and other offenders were released from detention without a single skerrick of protection like what this government is putting in place. Not one electronic bracelet, not one curfew, and yet Mr Dutton and his cohorts are out there claiming that this government is not protecting the Australian people when we're doing more than Mr Dutton ever did.
Will Minister Giles rescind Directive 99? Will he stop people claiming to be Aboriginal connected to overturn a deportation order, failing character tests?
Senator Roberts, I think the Chair has been clear that we've dealt with Direction 99.
Okay, let's move on then. Why has Labor not yet applied to re-detain non-citizens who pose an unacceptable risk to the community in the last 6 months since Labor passed legislation specifically aimed at doing just that? Why have you not detained people?
I think Ms Sharp addressed that prior to the lunch break, but she might be willing to give you a summarised version of that again.
Certainly, Senator. As I was saying prior to lunch, The Community Safety Order Scheme is modelled on the High Risk Terrorist Offenders Scheme. Applications under it need to be made to the court and need to be accompanied by a very substantial set of evidence. The evidence needs to go to all information known to the Commonwealth for why the order should be granted, and also all information known to the Commonwealth for why the order should not be granted. That requires an extensive review of records held by government agencies across the Commonwealth and the states and territories, followed by the receipt of expert evidence that looks at the risk profile of the individual and that expert evidence is gained through individual assessments, one-on-one with psychiatrists, etc., to really form up whether we have a reasonable case to demonstrate to the court that the only way to protect the community from a high risk of the person committing a serious violent or sexual offence is detention. And it's a very high legal bar to cross.
Let's move on to the recent Palestinian refugees from Gaza given fast-track visas. Why were they given special treatment where some visas were said to be given with only an hour of scrutiny and processing? An hour?
Senator Roberts, officials will probably dispute the assumptions made in your questions. I won't put myself on the other side of the table, but we did have extensive questioning on that earlier. It does relate to outcome 2 as well.
Okay. Given that 80% of Palestinians support the inhuman terrorist Hamas regime in Gaza, how could these Palestinians be shown not to be a danger to Australians in such a short time?
God, and we wonder why this... Senator Roberts, that relates to outcome 2. It's, apart from being divisive language, it's probably not appropriate in Parliament.
Then. When will Palestine be declared a country of concern so that high-risk applicants from Palestine are not able to be considered for a visa?
Well, I'm not actually even sure if that's possible, given Palestine is not a nation.
So you have to have a nation before you can...
Well, I don't know. I'm guessing that that's the way it works, but officials might know better than me.
Yeah. So.
Well,
okay.
I'm doing my best to assist the committee, Senator Reynolds.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Senator Roberts.